Chapter 1: The Awakening. Elara's eyes fluttered open, her breath visible in the freezing air as the cryo chamber began to thaw her out. The familiar hum of the spaceship, the Odyssey, buzzed in the background, a comforting sound she had grown accustomed to during her time in deep space. Something was off. The usual clamor of the crew was missing, replaced by an eerie silence that sent a shiver down her spine. She slowly stepped out of the cryo chamber, her muscles stiff from years of inactivity. The chamber doors hissed as they opened, revealing the empty cryo bay. Every other chamber, once filled with her fellow crew members, was eerily vacant. "Hello?" Elara's voice echoed through the bay. There was no response. Panic began to set in as she hurried to check each chamber. They were all empty. No signs of life, no signs of struggle. Just gone. Chapter 2: The Search. Elara quickly made her way through the dimly lit corridors of the Odyssey, her heart pounding in her chest. She called out for her crewmates, but the only reply was the cold, mechanical beeping of the ship's systems. The mess hall, the bridge, the living quarters, everywhere she looked, there was no sign of life. It was as if the crew had simply vanished into thin air. She reached the bridge where the ship's central computer, Ava, could be accessed. Elara's fingers danced across the console as she brought up the ship's logs, desperate for any clue as to what had happened. Chapter 3: The Discovery. As she sifted through the logs, Elara's blood ran cold. The crew had been ejected into space, every last one of them. The logs indicated a catastrophic system failure that had occurred during the voyage. A glitch in the navigation system had mistaken the crew's life signs for a threat, and in a cruel twist of irony, it jettisoned them into the void of space. Elara's hands trembled as she read the final entry in the log. It confirmed her worst fear. She was the only one left. The only reason she was still on board was due to a malfunction in her cryo chamber, which had prevented the system from detecting her presence. The glitch that had taken the lives of her comrades had inadvertently saved her own. Chapter 4: The Loneliness. Elara slumped into the captain's chair, staring out at the endless expanse of stars that stretched out before her. The realization of her situation settled heavily on her shoulders. She was alone, trapped on an empty spaceship, light years away from any human contact. The Odyssey was still on course, headed towards the distant star system that had been their destination. But the journey would take years. She spent the next few days wandering the ship, trying to keep her mind occupied. The once bustling corridors now felt like a tomb, each corner a painful reminder of the crew she had lost. The silence was deafening, the isolation overwhelming. Chapter 5: The Waiting. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Elara settled into a routine, doing what she could to maintain the ship and keep herself sane. She recorded messages, hoping that someone, someday, would find them. She talked to Ava, the only companion she had left, though the AI's responses were limited and impersonal. Every day, Elara stared at the ship's navigation screen, counting down the years until they would reach the new star system. It was the only thing that kept her going, the hope that when she arrived, there would be someone waiting for her. Someone who could rescue her from this nightmare. But deep down, she knew the truth. Even if she reached her destination, there was no guarantee of rescue. The odds of survival were slim. Yet, she clung to that sliver of hope, because it was all she had left. Final chapter: The Message. As the years passed, Elara's strength waned, but her resolve never faltered. She continued to send out distress signals, even though she knew they might never be answered. She maintained the ship, kept it on course, and kept herself alive, even as loneliness threatened to consume her. In her final message, Elara sat in the captain's chair, her face gaunt but her eyes still burning with determination. "Whoever finds this," she began, her voice steady despite the fear and sadness that gnawed at her. "My name is Elara. I am the last survivor of the Odyssey. I don't know if anyone will ever hear this, but if you do, know that I held on, I kept going, and I hope you will too." She paused, taking a deep breath. "If this story reaches you, please, like and subscribe. Share my story. Let it be known that even in the darkest of times, we can find the strength to keep going. Thank you." As she ended the recording, Elara leaned back in her chair, staring out at the stars. She was ready to face whatever lay ahead, even if it meant facing it alone.